Avery. So I remember her lips very distinctly. She had really beautiful lips, like with that distinct Cupid's bow and just the sweetest little face, just very sweet, angelic little face.
Welcome to Still a Part of Us, a place where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Winter.
And I'm Lee. We are grateful you joined us today. Please note that this is a story of loss and has triggers.
Thanks to our lost parents who are willing to be vulnerable and share their children with us.
If you're listening to this podcast, just know that on our YouTube channel there are pictures and videos that are related to the stories that are being shared.
Subscribe and share it with a friend that might need it and tell them to subscribe. Why? Because people need to know that even though our babies are no longer with us, they're still a part of us. Erica, thank you so much for coming on today. We are so pleased to be able to finally chat. We've been chatting for a little while, so I'm so glad to have you come on and talk about your sweet Avery. So welcome.
Thank you, Winter. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So as we get started, Erica, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where are you guys at? What does your family look like? Maybe at the time of Avery's birth, and then also maybe right now, like how that has changed and looked for you.
Sure. My name's Erica, and I live in New Jersey. At the time of Avery's birth, she was our first child. And then currently, we have three boys. Our oldest, Ryan, is 9. Our middle son, Evan, just turned 6. And then we have a 2-year-old, Parker.
So fun.
Yes,
Like I'm sure rambunctious is the thought I had with 3 boys.
for sure. For sure.
That's so great. And you and your husband, did you guys meet?
Oh, I didn't even mention my
Yeah.
husband.
Oh no, yeah, throw him in there. Like we want to know about who he is too.
Yes, yeah, my husband, Greg. So, he and I met when we were 15 years old,
Oh,
and it's been quite a number of years. So we
yeah.
actually just celebrated our 14-year wedding anniversary
Oh
yesterday.
man, congratulations. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Yeah.
And then you guys both, are you both from New Jersey area? Is that where you guys met?
Yep, we went to neighboring high schools, and we still live in the same town
Oh,
that
you
we
do?
grew up in. So we didn't go very far.
Yeah, it's fun though when you're like, we know this place. It's
Yes,
home.
exactly. It's familiar and we're happy here.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
we settled here
Good.
with
Well,
our
and
kids.
if family's nearby too, that's also a huge thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's great. What do you guys like to do as a family, and what do you like to do just as like hobby and keep yourself busy? Well,
Sure.
you do have 3 boys, so they do keep you busy, I'm sure.
Yeah, we don't have a whole lot of time for like our own hobbies, I
Yeah.
guess. But so I work full time for our state for the health department.
Okay.
And then yeah, we're busy with the kids. I coach my oldest son's swim team.
Oh man,
Um,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty involved with the PTA for
Mhm.
my older 2 kids' school. And then we love the beach. We're big water people, so we love to spend our time by the beach. Even now in the fall, like off season,
Mhm.
um, it's still beautiful in New Jersey by the ocean and just really peaceful. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. I'm like, and it's snowing outside. I just want to point that out.
Is
But
it
it
really?
totally is
Oh,
yeah, I was like, "Oh man, I'm a little jealous."
oh my God. I forget where you are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm in Utah, so this
that's
is
right.
typical. So
Oh my goodness, yeah.
okay, well, and at the time, so can you give us a little bit of a timeline as well? How long ago was Avery born, at the time of this recording?
Sure. So, Avery was born May 26th, 2012, so it's been a little over 10 years.
Yeah, which I am so grateful that you've come on because we do not have, we actually don't interview as many moms that have had some time and distance from their loss, and so I'm grateful for you today.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, well, you did mention that Avery was your first. So can you tell me, were you guys planning on getting pregnant? Was that just, or was it not a mistake, but like a surprise?
Sure.
Tell me about how your pregnancy went and if there was any fertility issues.
Yeah. Yeah, we had been married gosh, I'm trying to think back to time, but so
I know.
we've been married about 4 years,
Mhm.
and we were ready to start our family, got pregnant pretty quickly.
Oh, okay.
I mean, within a couple tries, we were pregnant and very excited. No fertility issues, obviously, and I had a pretty healthy pregnancy. I mean, very healthy pregnancy,
Yeah.
no issues. Yeah, we were just so excited to have our first baby.
Yeah. It is always so, so exciting.
Yes.
When you found out, was there anything fun that you did to
Oh gosh.
tell Greg
Yeah.
or to tell your family? Because it's always kind of fun to have those.
I remember going out to eat
Mhm.
with our moms and surprising them when we were out to dinner, and they were both, like, super surprised. Like, I mean, I guess they thought at some point it would be coming, but at the same time, they were still really surprised. Like, we hadn't said anything to them, like,
Oh,
we wanted to start a family, so they were both super excited.
yay. That's
It
always
was
so,
great.
so fun. Were you guys, like, some of the first to have kids in your family?
Yeah, so I'm an only child,
Oh,
so
okay.
yep, so on my side of the family, our kids are the only grandkids,
Yeah.
and then, my husband's side of the family, he has a brother, but he doesn't have any children,
Okay.
so yeah,
Sa
so
same
it's
thing there. It's a lot. Yeah, you
yeah,
guys
it's
are it,
nice.
huh?
Yeah, they're spoiled.
Yeah, I'm sure. So Erica, when you first got the pregnancy test, the positive pregnancy test, did you set up an appointment with doctors and to get that checked out? How did that look for you? I know it's been a
Yeah,
minute,
yep.
but tell me what you remember.
Sure. So, yeah, it being our first pregnancy, I didn't know that, you usually waited a couple weeks. So
Mhm.
I like called right away. I got my first pregnancy positive test, and they were like, they asked, when my last period was, and kind of calculated that way. And I think I was seen around 8 weeks, maybe.
Oh, okay. Yes, that's pretty typical, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And at that time, did they just, do a little ultrasound or just see if what did they
Gosh,
do
I
at that?
can't even remember. I
I
wanna
know.
say, yeah, they had, the typical pee in a cup and make sure,
Yeah.
and then maybe they did do an ultrasound, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been
yeah,
a minute, so that's why I was like, "Yeah,
yeah.
you might not remember." So, okay, so then how did the pregnancy go? Like, how are you feeling? Like, that first trimester is usually a little rough, so for a lot of
Mhm.
people, but how were you feeling?
Honestly, I felt really good. I had some nausea, but I think we were just on such a high to be
Mm,
pregnant, and, like, this was our first baby, so it was our only focus. Like, it was,
yeah.
talking about nursery planning
Yeah.
and just, like, the future and what our life was gonna look like, and, all those future, like, the things that we would envision for what our life was gonna look like, but we were just so excited, and I loved being pregnant. Every pregnancy
Oh,
I've had, I just loved being pregnant. It's something about that connection and to
yeah.
your baby and being a mom, and, I feel like the dads miss out a little bit on
Yeah,
that part.
they do, don't they?
Yeah, yeah, but no, everything went really well, and, I think for the first pregnancy, it would be, and because I wanna say 31, 30 or 31, like, I wasn't, labeled as a geriatric
I
pregnancy,
know,
so
right?
yeah, so we just had the normal. I wanna say I had, like, an ultrasound at, like, 12 weeks, and
Mm,
maybe was seen, like, every couple months, honestly.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't remember. I mean, I remember only having, like, the big ultrasounds at 20 weeks where we found out that she was a girl, and
Mhm.
then maybe once or so after, and that was really it.
Yeah, that's pretty typical if you're labeled kind of a healthy pregnancy, it seems like.
Yes.
So when you went in for your 20-week scan then,
Mhm.
how did she look? And it sounds like you guys wanted to find out the gender?
Yeah, we did. I just for whatever reason, my husband and I, we couldn't contain ourselves. We had so many friends who were like, Try to keep it a surprise," like, who had not found out
Yeah,
the sex of their baby, and, we wanted to find out, we wanted to plan, we wanted
yeah.
to have the nursery set up and pick out clothes and all of that. So, yeah, so we went to the 20-week ultrasound and, of course, they focused first on everything else and her organs and how everything was looking. And she looked fantastic, was very
Awesome.
healthy. And then they said, "Do you want to know the sex of your baby?" And we really thought that she was going to be a boy.
Oh.
I don't know why I had this weird, I felt like I was gonna be a boy mom, which, oddly now having 3 little boys, but,
Yeah.
we were shocked when we found out she was a girl, and I brought my mom to the ultrasound.
Mhm.
She was really looking forward to finding out, and I asked Greg if it would be okay if she tagged along, and he didn't care, so the 2 of us found out ourselves first, and she waited in the hallway, and then the tech invited her in after and we told her, and oh my god, she was crying and in tears.
Oh.
It was a really nice moment.
Yeah, that's
It
so
was so nice.
yeah, that's interesting that you totally thought it was gonna be a boy, and she
I
was gonna be a boy.
know, just strange that instinct. I don't know. I guess it was totally wrong with her, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know why in my head I was like, I thought it was going to be a boy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So and then everything looks good with her? Did everything look good with you, like the placenta and
Yeah,
all that
everything
jazz?
looked great.
Okay.
Same with like all those the gestational diabetes test,
Yeah,
everything checked out really great. I mean, there was no concern,
yeah.
nothing to be worried about.
Okay, well, that's always good. So oh, I always like to ask this. Now that you know the sex of the baby, the gender of the baby, did you end up, start coming up with names, or did you guys have a running list of either or?
Yep, we did. We knew her name was either going to be Ava or Avery. Those were I mean, they're very similar,
Yeah, both are
and we just
beautiful.
yes, we just love the 2 names, and yeah, I mean, we waited until we saw her to name
Mhm,
her,
mhm.
but we went back and forth for quite a while until we decided on her name, but yeah, those were the 2 top contenders, yeah.
Awesome. And was there any significance like, "Oh, this is a family name,"
No,
or just like, "We just like the way these sound"?
same, yep, that's exactly what it was, we just really liked the way that the name sounded, it
They
was
are
great.
and they're beautiful too, so
Aw, thank you.
Okay, so then you are kind of going along, after the 20-week, you're in 2nd trimester, probably still feeling pretty good. I mean, you were one of those people whenever when you were saying that, "I love pregnancy," I was like, "Oh, you're one of those people. You're one of those
Yep.
unicorns that feels good, is great, loves it." So, how did the 2nd trimester go? Everything check out there too?
Yeah, everything went really well. I mean, we were putting together the nursery. I had my baby shower.
Mm.
I wanted to kind of, I was kind of upset with my mom. I had my baby shower at around, I want to say like 36 or 37 weeks,
Oh,
which
okay.
to me seemed very late.
Yeah, you could totally
I
have a
mean,
baby then and
yes, yes. It was exciting, and I got to be part of a little bit of just knowing that the baby was a girl and kind of put a little bit of my input in what I was hoping she would
Yeah.
do, and it was really nice. We had a great 2nd and 3rd trimester.
Oh, wonderful.
Mhm.
Okay, so and you're probably starting to get once into the 3rd trimester, you're starting to probably go in a little bit more often. How is she looking at those ones too? Was she still checking out, doing really good,
Yep.
nothing, no problems?
Yeah, everything was really good. She was checking out well. She was active. Just never there was no complaints really. There's nothing that the doctors or well, so I was seeing doctors, but I was seeing midwives for the majority of my
Okay.
pregnancy.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of my friends had recommended seeing the midwife group. So it was the same practice, but the
Gotcha.
midwives, they said they were just, I guess, not as aggressive as far as like coming to time for delivery again, like, talking about when it was nearing your due date and like stripping your membranes and all that sort of
Yeah.
fun stuff.
Yeah.
But so I went that route. But yeah, everything was checking out really, really well.
Okay. Well, that's great. And then I know some people have very strong opinions about like a birth plan and everything. Was there any, I mean, like, was there something how you would like that birth to have gone? Like, if everything went the way we all hope it to go. So, any
Yeah.
birth plan or birth preferences that you had?
There I kind of was hoping to hold out on getting an epidural.
Mm,
And looking back, not saying that there's anything wrong with going natural, but, now but I'm like, "Why?" If I wanted to be comfortable, like, why wouldn't I don't know why. I just felt like I wanted to go through labor naturally. And
yeah.
I mean, I knew that I wanted like the baby immediately right on my chest, and the skin to skin
Mhm.
interaction right after she was born, and wanted my husband to cut the cord and that sort of thing. But nothing major. I mean, we were flexible.
Yeah, yeah, good. Yeah, birth preferences, right? Like
Yeah.
that. Okay, well then, so tell me as things progress because you are going along and everything's going okay, and then you guys get quite far, like to her due date, right?
Yeah.
Was there a plan? Tell me about the plan of like, were they inducing? Were they going to just let you ride it out and see when you went in naturally, started
Sure.
into labor?
Yeah. So my due date was actually May 17th of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So I went past my due date and heard that was very typical, especially
Mm-hmm.
with your first baby, that your first baby isn't always born, right at it's not like there's a timer that goes out and
Yep.
off and the baby pops out.
Yep.
But so yeah, I went past my due date. I feel like I want to say I was 41 weeks and
Mhm.
maybe a couple days, and kept going back to the doctors for follow-up appointments, and they said everything still looked really good. They were going to
Mhm.
continue to let me wait it out. I was being seen, and again, my memory doesn't
Mhm.
really serve me all that well, but I was going frequently to be checked. My final appointment was May 25th.
Okay.
I came in and I was having a non-stress test. So I
Oh,
had a
yes.
non-stress test maybe like a few days prior. Everything looked good. And I think at that point, because I'm not a medical professional, I know that they're checking for the baby's movement and
Mhm.
also like to see if there's any contractions, their heart rate, and that sort of thing. So
Mhm.
I remember them giving me, and I don't know if you've ever had one before winter, a non-stress test, but they give
Yeah.
you like a clicker and they said, click the button every time you feel the baby moving. And felt like I was clicking that button quite often. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, so the midwife came in and she like compared where I was clicking to like the movements, and she basically said to us that it appeared that Avery was sleeping. So this was what she had called it, that she was sleeping with hiccups. And I'd never experienced hiccups in
Oh,
my pregnancy before, where I've heard other people have, and that it's like a very distinct feeling.
yeah.
And I just figured it was movement. You're so far along, everything's tight and cramped in there.
Yeah.
The movements I feel like are not as, at least for me, they weren't like as swift. Um,
Okay.
like you would feel movement, but it just was like a little bit different, I guess, with
Okay. Yeah,
like,
just
there
yeah.
not being a lot of space.
Yeah.
But so she said that it seemed as though she was sleeping. So she gave me orange juice to try to wake her up and get her moving around. They were pushing on my belly. And like she just wasn't really responding. So they said, but she had a heartbeat, everything looked okay to our understanding. So
Okay.
I think they said her heart rate was a little bit on the low side, but they thought because she was sleeping,
Mm.
which I'm understanding that babies do in the
Yeah.
womb. So they sent us. They wanted us to go to the hospital, but again, there was not any cause for alarm. My husband and I asked. We didn't have we had our bags packed, but they weren't in the car with us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we said, would it be okay if we went home, let our dog out, and grabbed our things and then headed to the hospital? So we did have to kind of backtrack a little bit because our house is in the opposite direction of
Mm.
the hospital. So we went, got our things, and then headed to the hospital. So the other piece that comes into play here is, so the hospital that I delivered at was brand new. So
Oh.
the hospital was only 2 days new.
Whoa,
Yes.
that's really new.
Super new.
Wow.
So
Okay.
Yes, and coming up to our delivery with my due date being May 17th, we didn't know if we would be delivering at the old hospital or the new hospital.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
I mean, and obviously I know that there was the hospital staff, it wasn't like they just showed up that day. Like I know that
Right.
there was time in between that they were sorting things out, but there was a lot of confusion. And so we headed up to the labor and delivery floor,
Mhm.
and we buzzed in and told them why we were there, that our practice had sent us there, because I was past my due date, and that we were told our baby was sleeping with hiccups, but there was just they wanted me to get checked out.
Oh, yeah.
It
Okay.
wasn't like there was any immediate urgent issue, or we would have gone to the hospital right away if there was
Yeah.
any concern.
Yeah.
So they had us sit in what is like now like the grandparent waiting room. So like outside of the hospital, well, not outside the hospital. So it was outside of
Labor and delivery area
yeah, so like
probably. Yeah.
not right
Okay.
in where all the
Yes.
medical staff are.
Gotcha.
So we
Yes.
waited there, told them we were there. And I'm sorry, Winter. I feel like I'm all over the place. You'll
You're
just
doing
you're gonna
great.
do a lot of editing on my
No, you're doing great. Like, cause think about, like, you really are, I mean, like, you kinda got a lot of factors playing into this too.
yes. So and I mean, I feel like contrary to what I feel like a lot of people have experienced, like Avery had a heartbeat that day. So,
Yeah.
for us, I feel like this story is slightly different. I mean, I know everybody's story is different,
Yeah.
but so yeah, so we showed up, told them why we were there, and then they had us sit in the waiting area.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we came to find out that the area that we had showed up to was being temporarily used as a maternal fetal medicine triage area.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't know if there was some miscommunication between them and then like the staff that were waiting for us to show up to the hospital, like the people who were on
I
call from
see.
my practice.
Yes. Okay, I see.
There must have been some miscommunication because we waited there for like an hour and a half.
Oh,
I
oh,
know. So my husband and I, we buzzed in a couple times and said like we're still here waiting, and they just kept us waiting.
oh.
I know. And then we were finally called back, and I mean, what was difficult was I remember very specifically, there was, grandparents there in the waiting area, and they were finding out that their grandchild was born, and they were celebrating, and Greg and I were sitting there like, this is gonna be us. Like we're probably gonna have our baby today. Just we figured with being so far past my due date
Yeah.
that this would be it.
Yeah.
So they brought us back, and we told them what was going on. They had me like it was right in like the first there was like a little triage area that just had
Mhm.
the ultrasound, like a small little room. So they brought us back, and the sonographer started, doing the ultrasound,
Mhm.
and we were on cloud nine. We were so happy. And it just went from, that 100 to like the worst moment of our lives in just such a short amount of time. It's just,
Yeah.
crazy how this happens. But yeah, I mean, we were like joking with her, like, are you sure it's not a boy? Like, we just had no idea. And then I could tell on her face, I knew she wasn't allowed to say anything, but she said, I have to go get the doctor and I'll be back. So she went and grabbed the doctor on call, who was not part of my practice. It was the hospital's perinatologist. So
Yeah.
he came in and just had no bedside manner at all. And
Oh.
he just very flatly told us, I'm sorry, there's no heartbeat. And we were just honestly both so confused and in shock and like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And I remember him turning the screen towards us to show us like where the blood flow should have been. It was just so shocking. And we're in complete disbelief that this could have happened. Like it took a long time I mean, it took some time to register. We were just totally knocked off of our seats. It just, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, to,
Completely.
yeah, for her to have had a heartbeat just hours
Y
before.
yeah, like, couple hours, really, it sounds like, and
Mhm.
Oh my goodness, that is
Yeah, I know.
oh,
It was awful. I mean, I was hysterical. I mean, I can these details, it may have been 10 years, but these details do not escape your memory.
no.
But I mean, was hysterical, and my mom at the time was still working, and she was a teacher. And I remember, like, just saying, "I need my mom," and I couldn't even call her myself because I was just in such hysterics. So I gave my phone to one of the nurses there, and she called my mom, and then I think she put me on the phone with her, and I just remember I was, like, screaming, like, "The baby's died, the baby died," like, and she just couldn't understand it either. And then I remember just being so wrapped up with being consumed with worry about her driving in half hour to the hospital and that something was gonna happen to my mom. It was horrendous. Just,
Yeah,
that your world just really does come crashing down when you hear this news.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I
It
know.
always
Thank
yeah.
you.
You're just like, "Yes." Like, the thing that is gutting me is the fact that you guys had a non-stress test that morning, a
Yeah.
and she
Mhm.
had a heartbeat. Like,
I know, and I think that's what really even to this day, that time in between, that time where we were
yeah.
waiting and just the time where we went home, like, what if we had gone right to the hospital? I think those are the moments that really, torture
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
because it makes me, just wonder, what if, you
Yeah.
know, could things have been much different? But,
Yeah.
like, we try to also think to ourselves that, like, maybe she would have been born with a heartbeat, but might have had, like, severe medical complications if, she was in distress and we didn't even realize it. So,
Oh,
you can't rewind time, and
I know.
it is so hard. I mean, I feel like we torture ourselves
Yeah.
with so much going through this,
Yeah.
um, us moms. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. We have this what if, what if, what if, what if I had done
Yes.
this? What if I had noticed this? What if I yeah, and it like, yeah, you can just go into a spiral and it's not great to be there. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So did your mom end up getting there and
She
um
did. It felt like an eternity, but
I'm sure.
she got there, and then my mother-in-law arrived,
Oh, good.
soon after. Um, so we were, like, so thankful to have their support because,
Yeah.
my husband and I, like, I mean, we stuck and bonded, I felt like, closer with all of this happening. It just he was a huge support, but there's also just something about having your mom there with you.
Yeah. Yes.
It just she brought me so much comfort too,
Yeah.
between the 2 of them. I mean, and then he needed the support as well, so
Exactly.
yeah,
That's so good.
yes.
What did the doctors say about the next steps were?
I mean, my mind couldn't even wrap around the fact that, like, this baby had to come out, and,
Yeah.
that, but you're just like, "Now I
Yep.
have to go through labor," and I remember just saying, like, "Can I just have a C-section?" And I'm not so my 3 boys were all born via C-section,
Uh-huh.
but so I'm not minimizing having a C-section at all because it is no no
No.
easy walk.
Mhm. Yep.
But in my head, I just felt like I wanted to be, like, numbed and not have to experience the birth, um, in such a way, having to actually physically deliver her. But they explained to me that, delivering her vaginally would give me better chances in the likelihood of having, another vaginal birth, and it all in all was better for
Yeah.
me. So that was really difficult to wrap my head around the
Yeah.
fact that now so you've received this horrible, devastating, crushing news, and now you have to go through this, what you've been preparing for all this time to be one of the most, grueling and difficult and, I don't challenging moments of your life, but you knew you would have a breathing, alive baby at the
Yeah.
end, and now here you won't even have that. You're gonna give birth and you'll have no baby to take home.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
it's when you like, the way you put that, I was like, "That it sounds so cruel and so not fair," and I hope people realize, like, that is exactly what it feels like, where you're like, I'm ready for this, I'm gonna do this, like, we're
yes.
gonna have a reward at the end almost," and that is not the case with.
Yeah, it's stripped from you, and I was nervous, I was scared to
Yeah,
give birth in general before receiving all this news, and then now knowing that I would have to give birth and come home with no baby was just really crushing. Yeah,
yeah.
scary.
I'm actually a little curious. Did the doctor say anything while I mean, just looking around in the ultrasound, did they say anything of what happened? I mean, or were you like,
No.
because my first thought was always like, what happened? Like, what
Yes.
happened? Like,
Yes, we had those same thoughts, same questions, and they basically just told us they wouldn't be able to know until she was born if there was like an obvious observation that they'd be able to make, or if we wanted to have an autopsy done, or that they would test the placenta to see if there was something that had gone wrong. But
yeah,
yeah, there was no determination made at the time of the
okay,
news.
okay.
Mhm.
So, tell me then what you guys ended up doing. Did you get transferred to a different area and
We did.
started?
So yeah, so we were still in the labor and delivery floor, but I mean, I remember they put up that little rose on the back on the outside of the door with like the teardrop
Yep.
signifying that, we were a family that was having a loss. And I mean, it just, we went from those thoughts of like, oh, when I'm active, like in active labor, I'll be like walking the floor and pacing the floor. Well, now I wanted no part of that because I didn't want to hear other moms in labor giving birth to their crying babies. So, we felt like trapped in our room because I just did not want to leave
Yeah.
the room and have another piece of reality hit me.
Yeah.
So that was hard. They brought us into the room and then just there was so much ahead of us. It was like they gave us this folder with things we would need to look at while I was for like my cervix to, reach a 10 and
Yeah.
you're going through all this and then they're like, "Oh, and you also need, to make a decision whether you want to have like your funeral arrangements and all this stuff that you again are have never even heard of or never even thought would be on your plate."
Yeah. It's so it's rude. It's so
It
rude.
is.
It's like, "Oh, why are you giving this to me? I don't want this."
Yes, yes. Like, just talk about adding salt to the wound. It was like,
Oh, yeah.
you're already dealing with so much, and then to have that on top of it, it just I mean, and that again was why we were so thankful to have our moms with us. My mother-in-law made all the phone calls to the
Oh, she
nearby
did.
funeral homes. Like, she set everything up for us so that
Oh,
I didn't have to
that's
make a single call on my own. So, I was really thankful for that.
that is that's so great and amazing.
Yes. Yeah,
Thank goodness for our support systems that really have stepped up, right?
definitely. Yeah.
Were you actually in any sort of labor? Like, were you in active labor or anything when you even went to the hospital?
No, so on the way to the hospital, I kept feeling what I thought was movement and
Yeah.
like pressure. And I kept saying to Greg, like, oh gosh, she's like moving. I'm, feeling this movement. And it turns out it must have been like mild contractions.
Oh.
Because when I got into the room and they hooked me up to the monitor, they said I was having contractions.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm assuming that must have been that I was having, the
Yep.
contractions that I was feeling on the way there, but I think it was, like, super mild, like, nothing, not like when you're really far
Yes.
along in the
Yeah.
labor process.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they didn't necessarily need to get you started on anything else that would like hurry it along or anything, right?
So they did have to give me because I guess even though I was having, like, the mild contractions, like,
Mhm.
I still had to have Cervidil and Pitocin,
Okay.
which I know that's to open up, your cervix, right? And, like, get you
Get
prepared,
yep.
your body going so that you can get closer to delivering. But it took oh gosh. So we received the news, I want to say it was a Monday. So on the 25th,
On the 25th. Okay.
at around 2 p.m. but then she wasn't born until the following day, May 26th at 5 p.m. So,
Oh,
yeah, my body just was not cooperating. Like
yeah.
they really had to I don't I again, memory is not the best, but after so long, but, I mean, I know they did have to give the Cervidil and the Pitocin to
To
get
just keep
things moving along.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Thankfully, this was before the pandemic, so you probably
Yes.
your moms were there. Was there anybody else that came along or came to stop by and visit while you were laboring? Which is yeah, it's, like, awesome that people come visit, but
No.
it's not awesome either, like, because it's so sad.
Yes, yeah, so we didn't have any friends come. It was just we were going through so much as it was. I
Yeah,
didn't wanna have other people there, and like, I feel like I'm the type of person who is like a people pleaser, and I feel like I would be more like asking my friends like how how they were, or I
mhm,
where we needed just to focus on us
yeah,
and getting through what was before us. But I mean, I remember like reaching out to our friends, and I mean, I didn't really want to talk to people that
yeah,
whole time while we were waiting, but we had our dog at home. We needed a friend to come over and
yeah,
let him out, and we had to tell them where our, like, extra key was hidden, and, those sort of things that, again, you weren't planning for, and I didn't want my mom to leave. I wanted her to stay the
yeah,
entire time.
yes,
The 2 of them, they were there around the clock,
good.
so
So you basically labored all night. Did you get any sleep at all?
I remember at one point they gave me something to help me sleep
Oh,
because
okay.
my nerves were just I think my nerves were just so heightened, like, my body was just, like, in, like, a state of shock, and the nerves
Yeah.
took over. I could not rest, and so they gave me I don't even know what it was, like
Something
an
to
Ambien or something to help me calm my nerves, and they said then I remember the nurses were like, You're gonna need to get as much rest as you can because you've got a lot of head ahead of you." So, I mean, and then I will say the nurses that we had, and in particular, there's one she's a bereavement support nurse.
Oh,
Yeah, specifically who works on the maternity floor.
that is
Um,
amazing.
yes, she was phenomenal, and to this day, I have a really nice relationship with her.
Oh, good.
Yeah, she was very instrumental in the whole entire process. Yeah.
That is great. So, were there things that she kind of talked to you guys about and, like, asked questions to kinda help you start thinking about different things when Avery was born then?
Yeah, she did. I mean, they asked us a lot of the same questions, that we were like, do you want
Yeah.
her first, like, brought to you right away? Do you want Greg to cut the cord, like, kind of things still? And a lot of those things changed. I was so scared to see what she looked like. I didn't know, how she would look, and they sort of prepared us that, sometimes there's like the peeling of the skin and the, discoloration. So I was just really afraid.
Yeah.
So we opted, when she was born, for them to take her and clean her up a little bit
Mm.
before
Mhm.
bringing her to us.
Okay.
But it was a long night, and I remember, we couldn't even turn on the TV. I couldn't even distract myself with TV. It just felt like everything felt so trivial, like, just, like, I didn't
Yes.
wanna look at TV. I didn't wanna listen to music. I didn't because we just sat there in this quiet room. I mean, we might have turned on the TV at some point for just, like, background noise, but, the stuff that used to bring you a little bit of enjoyment in life, just, everything we were, like, mad too. It just
Yeah.
I didn't wanna see TV. I didn't wanna watch
Yeah.
talk shows or, like comedy thing, is that kind of it just all seemed so benign.
Yes. And so try it just yeah, you're just like,
Yes.
"What is the point? Like, why are
Yes.
we" Yeah, you're like,
Mhm.
"My life has just completely stopped. Why are you still going?"
Yeah, that's you nailed it, winter. Like, that just like, why isn't the rest of the world stopping
Yeah.
for us?
Yeah.
It was awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys, I just want to make sure that you guys hadn't really started referring to her as Avery or Ava yet necessarily. Well,
Yeah.
or you just waited until she was born, right?
We did. I mean, we had a feeling that Avery was gonna be her
Oh,
name.
okay.
I mean, I remember we were still, like, up in the air, like, "Let's
Mhm.
just wait until we see her, see what she looks like." But I think we had a strong feeling that that was, like, our number 1 contender.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's sometimes nice to talk to your
Yeah.
baby while
Yes,
this is
definitely.
happening, and at least I found it helpful to address my son. So,
Yes.
okay, so your, next morning comes and still progressing and everything. Do you have an epidural? Did you end up getting an epidural?
I did. I had an epidural and
Oh, good.
it we had some issues with that though.
Oh,
It didn't
no!
I know. I had an epidural and it didn't take. It like, so they had to like replace it,
Oh, gall. Okay.
which was not fun. But yes, I did have an epidural and it did work. It worked almost so well that I had no feeling in my legs. So I
Yeah.
remember at like when it was time to deliver, they had to like back it off so that I would have more
Oh,
feeling in order to be able to deliver.
yeah,
So
okay.
yeah, and it just I felt like I didn't have that until it was like the moment. I didn't have that strong feeling of like it's time to push. Like they really had to like rope me in and like Erica, like this is it. It's time. And I remember when they said that, it just felt like, "Oh my god, like, this is the moment. This is it. This is what we've been, here waiting for." And you prepared for it to be so different. But
Yeah,
yeah, it was terrifying, and I mean, they backed down my epidural enough so that I would feel everything,
yeah.
and it was so painful.
Oh,
I mean, I think it was emotionally painful, and I mean, my mom held one of my legs, my husband held my hand, and then the nurses were all there for the delivery. It just I mean, I know so many people have said, but it truly is the loudest silence that you ever hear, when your baby is stillborn. There's just nothing like that, and having had children after Avery, it just, you know, I feel like impacts that even more to know what it should have been.
yeah. Yeah.
It's this saddest, most painful, no sound.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's so silent, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm so sorry." I just
And then you hope when your baby is delivered, even knowing that there is no heartbeat. I remember
yeah.
Winter being hooked up to, like, the monitor, to see, like monitor, like, your contractions. I
Yeah.
remember that there was, like, 2 parts to the belt, like, there was the one part that monitored the contractions and one part
Yes.
that monitors, like, the baby's heartbeat. I remember them kind of saying and they weren't cold in saying this, but it was almost like, "Well, you don't need that part because your baby doesn't have a heartbeat."
Yeah.
And even though you know this, when that moment comes when your baby's born, there's still, like, that hope that there was a mistake on their end and your
Yep.
baby's gonna cry,
Yeah.
and they had to be wrong, and there wasn't, and it just was awful.
It's awful. I'm so
Mhm.
sorry. It's awful. I'm like, yeah.
Yes, it is, I know.
They cleaned Avery up. Did Greg end up cutting the umbilical cord?
Didn't. I remember I just wanted him by my side. I didn't even want him to, like, let go of my hand,
Yeah.
Winter. It was like
Yeah.
I wanted him, like, attached to my body
Yeah.
almost, like I mean, even when we slept the night before, I was in, like, the hospital bed, and he had, it was like a chair that folded out into, like,
Yes.
the,
The little
um
cot thing, whatever. Yeah.
Yes. He was like, he moved it so it was, like, butted right up against my hospital bed. Like, we made it as much of, like, a double bed as we could
Yeah.
because I didn't want him to leave my side, like, even to make, like, a phone call or go to the bathroom. I didn't wanna be in that room alone by myself for any moment. So, yeah, and I think he was scared too. He, didn't wanna cut the cord. He was afraid to see
Yeah.
what she was going to look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally understandable.
Yes.
Um, but they brought Avery to you, and after they cleaned her up, and how did she look?
Oh
How
my
was that experience?
the best, like, worst moment of
I
your life,
know.
Winter.
I
It
know.
just is, you see your baby for the first time, and, oh, she was so beautiful.
Yeah.
She was so beautiful. And I remember just thinking like, "God, why was I so scared?" She was just beautiful, and they had her in, one of the outfits because we had our bags packed. They had her dressed they didn't have her just, like, swaddled. They had her in one of the outfits that
Oh,
we
yeah.
had brought, and then I felt like it was nice for us, then, like, we slowly, like, took off her hat to see her hair, and she had this full head of hair,
Oh,
like, all this dark brown hair, and, I mean, she did have, like, some of the peeling, like, on her lips and a little
oh,
bit on her face, but, I mean, she looked like a sleeping baby, like, and then I realized, like, I didn't have anything to be afraid of,
yeah,
and when it's your child and you have that immediate connection and, like, I just didn't wanna let her go,
yeah.
she was beautiful.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Like, yeah, isn't that like there's like you're always just proud of your children, like, it's
Yes.
despite yeah, you just I was beaming with pride. I just think, like, the way you described it, I was like, "Yeah, yeah," like, you just look how cute they are, and so
That's exactly what it is, like, I can't believe we made this child, like,
yeah,
this is our baby, like, a product of us, the 2 of us, like,
yeah,
made this little
yeah.
girl. It was really incredible. Yeah,
Oh,
it
man.
it really
Did
was, just the most beautiful but heartbreaking moment, like, just
yeah,
knowing that, like, this is going to be it. This little bit of time that we have with her will be all we ever have. I think that just is the hardest
yeah.
part. Yeah.
So you guys did both of you guys hold her? Did your parents hold her, and, was everybody all involved? Some
Yes.
people are concerned about holding, the baby after it's passed away. They just, like, either think it's weird or just aren't uncomfortable with it. Did everybody get a chance or that wanted a chance to hold her?
Yeah, they did, like, I held her, my husband held her for a long time, my mom, my mother-in-law, I mean, they just and even just to watch them holding her and, like,
I
the way
bet.
that they looked at her was just incredible.
Yeah.
It was a little scary to hold her, though, I mean,
Yeah.
the difference between holding a baby that's alive and can support themselves,
Mhm.
so we had the nurses assist us a lot in, like, transitioning her from one to the other. We were just so afraid, and she felt so fragile,
Yeah.
just and delicate. I knew her skin, we were afraid, like, of,
Of
damaging her skin any
right.
further, but, yeah, it was the best to be able to hold her.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I when Lee held our son, it was like the sweetest little feeling to see him just, like, look at his son, and I like, just, like, look at him being a dad and
Yes, it was amazing. It was amazing to see him, and I just felt like I fell in love with my husband even more,
Oh,
seeing him with our daughter that way.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was really special.
How big was she? How big was she? How long was she also? I should
I
have
think
asked
she
that
was,
earlier.
21 inches.
Oh, so she was tall. Yeah.
Yeah, she was my size, and, she was 7 pounds, 13 ounces.
Oh, yeah, she was a good little
Yeah, she
size.
was a good size,
Yep.
like, not too tiny, not too big, just perfect.
Yeah. Your, the bereavement nurse that was there to help you guys, so what did you guys end up doing while when you guys had her? Like, what are some of the things that you tried to do to make memories, to capture any sort of moments with her?
Sure, yeah, so they helped us with taking the hand and footprints
Mm.
in our had our baby book with us,
Oh,
thankfully.
good.
So yeah, they did that. We took a little snip of her hair and tons of pictures. They thankfully had a photographer
Oh,
on
good.
board with the hospital, and she came in and took pictures. And I mean, those pictures are such a treasure. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, that's all we have. And
yeah,
we were scared, as I know so many other families are. We were nervous and felt like we're taking pictures of this. This seems strange, but she really urged us, like, this is all you're going to have. And
yeah.
I am so incredibly thankful for the woman who took the pictures. She's also somebody who I have some contact with, and
Oh, good.
she's taken other family photos of us. So with like us holding Avery's picture. So it's nice to kind of have it come full circle.
Yeah.
But those pictures, and we have them around our house in our bedroom because she's a part of our family.
Yeah.
So it's so
Completely.
important to have that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Did you guys do a bath or anything or any other read stories or sing or anything that was significant that you guys wanted to do with her?
Yeah. I mean, we sang to her. I remember we didn't read a book, which would have been really nice too. But we did sing to her. They did help us bathe her.
Mhm.
And again, we were like so gentle, so
Yes.
afraid. Even just dressing and undressing her was scary for us.
Yeah, yeah.
We just wanted to keep her little body looking as perfect as it was.
Mhm.
Yeah, my husband, like, kinda stood up and, like, danced with her, like, just kind of
Oh.
rocked her, and it was beautiful. We did have we're Catholic, and
Mhm.
we had the hospital chaplain come in and give
Oh,
her a
good.
blessing. So, like, similar to a baptism with
Yeah.
our parents there, our moms there, and, some of the hospital staff were there with us, which just made it feel really special. It wasn't the moment that we
Yeah.
had planned it to be, but it just felt good to have their support and then be with us in the room during, like, such a special moment.
Yeah.
I
Well,
did wanna say winter. I feel like what was really difficult was, so my dad lives in Florida,
okay.
and him not being there was just so hard.
Oh,
He was like, "I'm not gonna come until the baby's born," because, he wanted us to time to get home and get
yeah.
settled, and
Yeah.
he figured he'd fly out in, like, the next couple days after we came home from the hospital.
Completely. Yeah.
So, yeah, finding out the news about what had happened to Avery, he got on a plane as fast as he could, but, you're in the hospital for such a minimal amount of time
Yeah.
that I think he got there the day after we were discharged. So,
Oh,
it's crushing that my dad couldn't be there to hold her and
yeah.
have some of those memories that our moms did.
Yeah.
You just want everybody to be a part of this and meet your baby and see your baby.
Yeah.
Um,
'Cause she's part of your family. That is like I remember we were super blessed to have all of our family be able to come to the hospital and meet our son, and that was really important and so precious, and so I can imagine that would be so hard to have that feel like, "Oh, my dad
yes,
missed out on the," like, being able to
yes,
meet her, like, when she was born. Yeah, that is
yeah,
like, once again, another what if, like
yes, yes,
yeah.
yeah.
How did the hospital have any sort of policy on how long you could keep Avery?
That's a good question. I honestly don't know. We had her over and she was there in the room with us. Oh no, excuse me. No, she was in the room with us for a really long time, but then overnight they took her so that
Okay.
we could try to rest.
Yes.
And then the next morning they brought her back to
Oh,
us,
good.
so that we could see her and say goodbye.
Yeah.
Those worst moments, so difficult. It's like there's never a right time or
No.
right moment to be able to say goodbye forever to your child.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think we would have been able to stay much longer even if we had wanted to.
Yeah.
I think they kind of want to get you out of
Yeah.
there.
Well, and after a while, you're just like, "Why?" Oh, it's just
Yeah,
yeah, there's
it's the inevitable. You have to make your way home, and that moment of being, wheeled out of the hospital with your memory box,
yeah.
another, like, most painful moment that will stay with me for the rest of my life. And the nurses ensuring that the hallway will be cleared and there won't be any crying babies. It's just like, why does this all have to happen
Yeah.
for me? Like, why? Like, I don't want it to be that way. It
Yeah.
just, all of those things.
Yeah. It is
Yeah.
yeah, it just feels like so much and you're just yeah, it's awful.
And I mean, and for us, it truly was that because because she should have been born that day and we
Yeah.
felt we should have taken her home with us. We had all of our things and clothes for like the going home outfit for her and all that. And we that saying, like, the empty car seat, like, we literally did have we had the empty car seat in our car, and it just oh, that was, like, the worst image in your
Yeah.
head, like, our head, to have to see that car seat sitting there and driving home with no baby. I mean,
Yeah.
even winter, like, when we had our other children, I remember I didn't want Greg we remember the parking spot that we parked in, and when we delivered had our other kids,
You wouldn't
I was
park
like,
there.
"You're not parking in that
Yep.
spot." I didn't wanna deliver in that room. I didn't want like, everything had to be different because
Yeah.
those minor things, like the parking spot,
Yeah.
stick with you, the
Yeah, they
aftermath
do.
of all this.
Yeah, like, 'cause it's like there's trauma laced with it all, like, it's just
It
is
is
it's
yes.
horrible. Yeah, and it just comes
Yeah,
back to haunt you, and it'll come out of nowhere too, like, yeah,
it really
that's
does.
I'm so glad that I'm like, "Oh, I've totally done that before." I'm glad I'm
Yes.
not the only one that has done that.
Yep, and, like, another thing, so I went to dinner the night before, so
Mhm.
the night of the 24th, May
Yeah.
24th,
Yeah.
with 2 of my really, good friends from work. We went to dinner and, we were talking about, the baby and
Yeah.
everything, and again, like, as part of the aftermath of all of this, I, like, cannot go back to that restaurant. I will not step
Yeah.
foot in that restaurant again because it's, again, part of, like, my scars, and I'm just not wanting to go there, and
Yeah.
it's not that great of a restaurant anyway, so
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, no, but it totally makes sense though because once again, like maybe I'm a little I think I'm definitely superstitious, but I'm like I don't want any of yeah, I don't want the bad luck. I don't
Yes.
that's not a great way to put it, but I'm like I don't want any of that to be associated with this current. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. And can I tell you an aside, and if
Yeah,
Winter, if you
totally.
want to include this in the story, that's fine. If you wanna cut it out, that's fine also.
Yeah, yeah.
But the craziest thing happened on the night of the 24th. So
Okay.
I had been out on a maternity leave from work. I
Okay.
knew because I knew the baby was coming, I
Yeah.
wanted to take those couple weeks, she should have been here, we
Mhm.
felt,
Mhm.
at before we were supposed to before she arrived, she should have
Yeah.
been here. So I was preparing to go out to dinner with my 2 close friends.
Yeah.
And that day I was sitting on our back porch, I was outside and we lived in a tiny little Cape Cod at the time and the yards were close together and we had the
Mhm.
chain link fence so I could talk to my neighbor like really easily. So
Yeah.
she was outside and was around the same age as me. And she was talking to me and said like, "Oh, baby's still not here." And I said, "No, she's, still waiting." And she said something to the effect of like, when I had my baby. And she had no living children. Like she was living next door to us, so we would have known if there was a little kid.
Yeah.
And this is just, I don't know, Winter. I feel like I don't know, part of my faith. Like we sometimes wonder if like this was like God's signal to us, or
Yeah.
I don't know what. But she said to us, she said, "Yeah, so many years ago, I had a baby and he was stillborn." And I had never heard this was May 24th, and we found out Avery had died the next day. And I had never heard of the word stillbirth or
Yeah.
stillborn in my life. I had heard of miscarriage and again, not minimizing that, but
Yeah.
I had never heard of this. And she told me a bit of her story and what had happened. And I was crushed. I was absolutely crushed. And remember going to dinner with my 2 close friends from work and saying to them, "Can you believe what happened to my neighbor?" And was telling her this. And they were like, "That's awful. That's terrible." And I don't know. It is just the eeriest thing to me, Winter. Part of me is like, was that God reaching out to us to be like, this is what you're going to be facing in like 24 hours. Like, just don't know why the world works this way. But,
Yeah.
and I don't, then sometimes we're like, well, maybe she was a source of comfort to come home to reach
Yeah.
out to my neighbor and have her be able to say, like, I get it.
Yeah.
But it just felt so wrong. And, you know, just how our worlds collided that way. And literally 24 hours later, that was me.
Yeah.
It was just so crazy, and I don't even know bizarre what the right word is, but um, I
Yeah.
I felt like it was like a foretelling of what was going to happen. It just again, another thing that I
Yeah.
sometimes torture myself with and think, "Why didn't I realize?" And I did have that, telltale rapid movement, that some people explain, like, that really intense movement, like, from
Yeah.
Avery, like, she was moving, like, almost
A
like
lot.
yeah, intensely, and I just was like, "Oh, maybe she's, like, turning," or didn't know what, and there was never anything said to me about, "This is something to look out for."
Yeah.
Um, so,
Oh, I
yeah.
know, that is like, oh, man, I didn't realize that she had had
I know.
that
It just,
movement.
was something that we had never discussed because there was no reason to, but the fact that it came up and the timing of it was just
Yeah.
looking back was we were like, "What? Like, I can't believe this."
Yeah. Erica, when you were telling that story about your neighbor, so I have a little group of friends that, we are lost moms. We call ourselves the sad moms, because we're
It's
sad.
true.
But they all kind of talked about how there were, like, little things that kind of, like, happened, or somebody said something, or that almost helped them prepare. That sounds
Yeah.
terrible to say, but, like something was put there so that it wasn't as much of a shock. It's a shock. Like,
Yes.
it's a shock,
Yeah.
but it was kind of like you said, kind of preparing you in some
Yes.
sort of way of hearing that term. Because I, like, legit, when you were saying that, I was like, "Yep, I had a friend who posted something on Facebook, and I was fascinated by her, like, when she was talking about it, I was like, 'Oh my gosh, this is a thing?'" Like, and so
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. So I think you're not alone in that, actually. I
Yeah.
don't think you're alone at
Yeah.
all, Erica.
Well, thank
That
you. It's
Yeah.
comforting to hear that, it's not just because it felt like
It
we had
was a
this glaring sign and like, why
Yeah.
didn't we pick up on that? Or we should have known. We should like, how would you know?
How would you
Yeah.
know? You wouldn't
Yes.
expect anything crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's interesting. That's so fascinating that she said that. But it sounds like has been a good, was a good source of help
Yeah. It,
after
it
that.
was
But
helpful to come home and be able to talk to her and
yeah.
um just somebody who understood, like, from the moment that we got home, like, she was I mean, it wasn't somebody that I was very close with, but just somebody who got it, and I could say, like, "This is horrific," and she was like, "I know, it's
It is.
terrible." Yeah,
Yeah. Having
yeah,
that understanding. So Avery was born at like 5. I just want to make sure that I've got the timeline. She was born around 5 o'clock on the 26th. You spent a good number of hours in the evening, and then they were able to take her so that you guys could rest, which is good because you have been going basically for a couple of days, probably with little rest and a lot of stress and a lot of sadness. And they do bring her back, right, the next morning. And was there any things that you guys did with her in the morning? And when did you give her back slash when did you guys get discharged? Like,
yeah,
some people feel responsible to give back their baby, and then others were like, I gotta leave. And then you guys just have her in the room. And,
yeah,
it just kind of depends on how it works best for you. And so tell me about how that looked the next
yeah. I
day.
remember in the morning, we had her for some time, held her again, one last time, but I felt, like, thankful for the hospital staff that they kind of were like, "Okay, we're preparing you for discharge." Like, it wasn't really up to us,
Yeah.
and looking back, I mean, that had to happen because if it was up to me, I would have never been able to be like, "Okay, we're ready," it just
Yep.
they said, "You're gonna see her for one last time, and then, we have to take her," and it was pretty quick after that that we were, being taken
Okay.
being discharged and taken out of the hospital, like, I remember saying, like, I wanted it to happen quick. I wanted to
Gotcha.
be out of there because it was gonna be so excruciatingly painful that, we were ready to face the next steps. Yeah, of heading home,
Yeah.
and all of that all of the feelings that come along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely. So did you end up giving her back, or did you guys end up just being discharged. You gave her back then,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we gave her back to the nurses, and, I remember them wheeling her out in the little, bassinet,
Yeah.
and, what a painful moment.
Yeah.
But and then it wasn't long after that that they, brought the wheelchair in and got us prepared to go
To go.
home. Yeah.
Oh man. I'm realizing that I neglected to ask you when she was born, did they notice anything?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that part too.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Yeah. I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I know we need to chat about this actually." So,
yeah. They did. So her umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck. I don't believe that there was a knot or anything like that,
oh,
but
okay.
it was wrapped around her neck, and they said it was pretty tight. And I'm guessing when I was having like those contractions, like I think
Kept
she must have just been in distress, or I don't know what was happening. But yeah, just so unfortunate the way
yeah.
that, something that what you can't control what's going on inside of your body.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, it was helpful to have some reasoning because we really struggled with the decision about having an autopsy. And if I think if there wasn't a glaring
Right.
reason for her death, we like would have considered it, but we were really strongly against it. We just didn't feel it was in our hearts.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we didn't have an autopsy. They did send my like placenta out for testing, and everything came back fine, no abnormal result. So it seemed to mostly be attributed to
To the umbilical cord.
the umbilical cord. Yeah.
Oh, that is so
I
yeah.
know.
Because 'Cause you're just like, "Oh, Avery was a little acrobat in there," or,
I
you
know.
know? Mm.
And to have such a healthy, like
Yeah.
easy, seamless pregnancy, and then it's almost like bad luck, or I don't know what, just,
Yeah. It
you know,
uh,
lightning striking on you. I don't, like,
yeah. Like,
yeah,
yeah, the odds, the statistics of that actually, it just is like, yeah, why?
yes.
Why? And it's frustrating. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, Winter.
When you guys got home, I'm assuming your moms were there to kind of be there, support you, and take care of you. Did you guys end up, doing a funeral or memorial service to commemorate her, celebrate her?
Yeah, we did. So, yeah, our moms came
Yeah.
home with us. Got us stocked up with some food because,
Yeah.
we there was no way I was going to be cooking or doing any of that kind of thing. I mean, we didn't even want to eat, but
Yeah.
just to get some essentials in and get us settled. And my mom, because I mean, we had everything ready. Like we had like the swing and all of those things in our living room. And my
Ready.
mom kind of came, so my mom did leave the hospital the night that we were laboring, and she came to our house. I think she let our dog out and took care of things, and cleaned up some of the things that were out in the living room that, but I mean, it wasn't like she took down a nursery overnight,
Yeah.
but she kind of put those things away just so they weren't right there as soon as you walked in the house. But yes, my mother-in-law made the phone calls, thankfully. And we came across this amazing funeral home who was run by, or and is still run by, like a younger-ish family.
Oh, uh-huh.
And she didn't charge us a thing. I mean,
Oh,
there was, we had to pay, I think, because we decided to have Avery cremated.
mhm.
We had to pay like the minimal fees for like
Yeah.
cremation and things like that we wanted for ourselves, like and personalized urn and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But whatever else was involved, she took care of. And
Oh,
we were just so blessed to have somebody like that who was compassionate and, you know, had her heart out for us, that, you know, she was like, "You guys shouldn't be facing this. This is so
yeah.
unfair." So I mean, we had a very small memorial service. It was that by that time my dad
Oh, good.
had flown in from Florida. So it was just us, like Greg and I, my mom, my mother-in-law, and my dad there. We didn't extend it to friends or
Yeah.
outside people. which felt right for us at the time. We just wanted things to be private.
Yeah.
I guess sometimes in my head now, I wonder if I would have kind of wanted to open it up to close friends just so I don't know, I felt like I wanted them to see her and
Yeah.
like she's tangible and like real and our baby. And I mean, we shared pictures with our friends, but there's just something different about
Yeah.
seeing your baby. But we just felt it was best to keep it to our immediate family. So that's what we did. And we had a priest come from our parish to give a
Mhm.
blessing and say some prayers over her. And so it was nice to have that.
Yeah. That's amazing, like, how I just think of the funeral director, how kind that was, and and doing what you guys did, I think that is great to have something that felt right to do for to celebrate her life and have that those, the blessings, the time together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so hard, like, when you look back, I'm like, "Oh, I wish I did, like, a reading or said this," but, like, you have days to prepare, and you're
Yeah.
in the most profound state of, like, grief and
Yes.
shock, like, there's I was in no frame of mind to be planning anything, so,
Yeah.
even picking out a dress to wear, I remember I was like, what do I wear?" And
Yeah.
look pregnant still, so I'm,
Yeah.
wearing, like, my maternity clothes, like, which is my best maternity dress to wear to my daughter's funeral,
Funeral. Yeah.
horrible,
It's
but
hard. It is so hard and so awful, yeah, because like you said, you were planning on being home with a baby and being,
mhm,
sleep deprived because 'cause you're getting up in the middle of the night, and now you're doing something completely opposite, 180 of what you're expecting to be doing
yes.
on that day, so I'm so sorry. Thank you for sharing Avery with us. That
Thank you, Winter.
is a beautiful story, and I'm so sorry
Thank you.
that happened. Is there any last thing that you wanna share with us about Avery?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would just say that, sometimes in my head, I'm like, it's been 10 years. Why am I not like, and I feel like saying over this is the wrong word to say because
Yeah,
I'll never be over this. This is a lifelong journey for us. But I always say that in order for people to know me, they need to know Avery. They need to because she's part of me and she's part of our family. And to know Erica is to know Avery. So that's why I feel like I need to be able to say her story. And it feels so good to share about her as hard as it is. I feel like in the beginning of your journey, you talk about it so much more. And as time goes on, your life begins to evolve a
yeah,
little bit and the your life revolves around other things and you just manage your grief differently.
yeah.
So being able to share her story is a blessing. So thank you.
Oh, we with pleasure. We're so glad you were willing to share it because I got chills when you said, to know who you are is to you need to know Avery, that she's part of
Mhm.
who you are, and that is so, so true because that's that was a very life-changing experience to have her and to have her be part of your life, and so but thank you so much, Erica. I really appreciate your time telling us all about Avery.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.